class easier. Nobody here. I can do it. Oh, okay. It's probably gonna, if he's playing music, it's going to be loud up here, huh? Oh well. Hare Krishna. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava. Faster. Mukha Biha. Faster. Can you go faster? Can you go faster? Good. Jaya Radha Madhava. Kunja Bihari. Kopijana Balava Ivadedari. Gopijana Balava Ivadedari. Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balava Givadedari. Gopijana Balava Givadedari. Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Padavikacharya Satoda Sata Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishupad Paramahansa Padavikacharya Asatoda Sata Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Anantikoti Vaishnavendra Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Sat Goswamis of Vrindavan Ki. Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. Lord Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Hari Hari Bol. There's some competition, huh? Anyways. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naranchaivam Narottamam Deving Sarasatim Vyasam Uto Jayam Udirayet Nasabareshu Avareshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki Shrinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hriyansto Hibadrani Vidunoti Saritsitam. We're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service. Festival time. So we have verse 32 on the board, and 31 is here without a purport. So I'll read 31 and then we'll chant 32. Thank you. Maitreya Uvacha. Nope, I'm going to read that and then we'll read that. That's coming next. Vidit Vartam Kapilo Matu Itiham Jatasneho Yatra Tanava Bijata Tatvam Nayanam Yat Pravidanti Sakyam Provacha Vai Bhakti Vitanya Yogam. Translation. Maitreya said, after hearing the statements of his mother, Kapila could understand her purpose. And he became compassionate towards her because of being born of her body. He described the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is a combination of devotional service and mystic realizations as received by the civic succession. So, today's verse, text 32, you can repeat after me. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Devanam Gunalinganam Anushravika Karmanam Sattva Evaka Manaso Vritti Swabhaviki Tuya Animita Bhagavati Bhakti Siddhir Garyasi Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Devanam Gunalinganam Anushavika Karmanam Sattva Evaka Manaso Vritti Swabhavik Tuya Animita Bhagavati Bhakti Siddhir Gariyasi Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Devanam Gunalinganam Anushavika Karmanam Sattva Evaka Manaso Vritti Swabhaviki Tuya Animita Bhagavati Bhakti Siddhir Gariyasi. Anyone want to chant? Jamasmi. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Devanam Gunalinganam Anushravika Karmanam Sattva Evaka Manaso Riti Sabivaki Tuya Animita Bhagavati Bhakti Siddhir Gariyasi. Anyone else? Shri Bhagavan Vacha Devanam Gunalinganam Anushrivaki Karmanyam Sattva Evaika Manaso Vritti Swabhaviki Tuya Animita Bhagavati Bhakti Siddhir Gariyasi Vaishnavis. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Devanam Gunalinganam Anushravika Karmanam Sattva Evaka Manaso Vritti Swabhaviki Tuya Animita Bhagavati Bhakti Siddhir Gariyasi. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Devanam Gunalinganam Bhakti Siddhir Gariyasi. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Devanam, of the senses or of the presiding deities of the senses. Gunalinganam, which detects sense objects. Anushravika, according to scripture. Karmanam, which work. Sattve, unto the mind or unto the Lord. Eva, only. Ekamanasa, of a man of undivided mind. Vritti, inclination. Savabhaviki, natural. To, in fact. Ya, which. Animita, without motive. Bhagavati, to the personality of Godhead. Bhakti, devotional service. Siddhi, then salvation. Gariyasi, better. Lord Kapila said, the senses are symbolic representations of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work under the direction of the Vedic injunctions. As the senses are representatives of the demigods, so the mind is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mind's natural duty is to serve. When that service spirit is engaged in devotional service to the personality of Godhead without any motive, that is far better than even salvation. Purport, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The senses of the divinity are always engaged in some occupation, either in activities prescribed in the injunctions of the Vedas or in material activities. The natural inclination of the senses is to work for something, and the mind is the center of the senses. The mind is actually the leader of the senses. Therefore, it is called sattva. Similarly, the leader of all the demigods who are engaged in activities of this material world, namely the sun god, moon god, Indra, and others, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is stated in Vedic literature that the demigods are different limbs of the universal body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our senses are also controlled by different demigods. Our senses are representations of various demigods, and the mind is a representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The senses, led by the mind, act under the influence of the demigods. When the service is ultimately aimed at the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the senses are in their natural position. The Lord is called Rishikesha, for He's actually the proprietor and ultimate master of the senses. The senses and the mind are naturally inclined to work. But when they are materially contaminated, they work for some material benefit or for the service of the demigods, although actually they are meant to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The senses are called Rishikesha, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Rishikesh. Indirectly, all the senses are naturally inclined to serve the Supreme Lord. That is called bhakti. Kapila said that when the senses, without desire for material profit or other selfish motives, are engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in devotional service. That spirit of service is far better than siddhi, salvation. Bhakti, the inclination to serve the Supreme Person of Godhead, is in a transcendental position far better than mukti or liberation. Thus, bhakti is the stage after liberation. Unless one is liberated, one cannot engage the senses in the service of the Lord. When the senses are engaged either in material activities of sense gratification or in the activities of Vedic injunctions, there is some motive. But when the same senses are engaged in the service of the Lord and there's no motive, that is called animita, and is the natural inclination of the mind. The conclusion is that when the mind, without being deviated either by Vedic injunctions or material activities, is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service to the Supreme Person of Godhead, it is far better than the most aspired for liberation from material engagement. Hey, Jamasmi, can you turn this fan off? It's giving me a sore throat. Om Jnana Tamiranjasa Gananjanan Shalakaya Chakshurumini Chamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Bhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayurupa Gagatmayam Dadati Swam Badatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganat Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvahutam Parijanam Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaganat Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cham Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopikanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhana Suti Devi Panamariya Ripriye Vanchakapatu Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So Kapila is beginning his Sankhya philosophy, which ultimately leads to pure devotional service. So it's interesting to hear devotional service described in this way, isn't it? I mean, normally when we read, we don't hear this. It's kind of like a mixture, kind of an impersonal view of the absolute with devotional service. So I guess that was at this time, the way of transmitting devotional service. As we know, Mahaprabhu, he appeared. He didn't talk like this. He just chant Hare Krishna. Just chant Hare Krishna. No philosophy, anything, just. Interestingly enough, the verse before, it mentions how his mother was saying that she felt like she wasn't going to be able to understand devotional service because of her perceived limitations. So, again, right away, what does he start with? The senses are symbolic representations of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work under the direction of the Vedic injunctions. And we don't see that nowadays, do we? The senses are naturally inclined toward what? Tamagun, Rajagun. The prevalent culture is the West, capitalism. You see, all these atheistic societies, our leaders, our governments are all atheistic. And they promote that when you die, everything is finished. So just try to enjoy as much as you can now without causing disruption to others. So the senses are inclined, seems, to those activities, not toward being religious. And so, of course, there's no Bhagavatam at that time. There's no pastimes of Lord Krishna to hear. It's just the Vedas, which are innumerable. Even with our Bhagavatam and our books that we have, when you read through it, it doesn't really, in a sense, analyze all our philosophy in kind of a systematic way. You have to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj does that for us. The Adi Leela, very nicely, he establishes how Krishna is the Supreme Person of Godhead, all the positions of the Vishnu Tattvas, what is our position, and then eventually now he can establish Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Person of Godhead. But if you want to very systematically get a good understanding, overall view of what is our position in this world in relation to the absolute truth, Adi Leela. And he quotes, it's not that he's saying, I think, but he's gathering references from the various Vedic literatures that we have. Which is also amazing because, he's a 90-year-old man. He says that. He says, I'm at the end of my life. I can't see, my hands are trembling, my ears aren't working. But Radha Madan Mohan have asked me to do this. Therefore, I'm trying to do it. He doesn't have computer. He didn't even have pencil and paper. Imagine that. And so all that's retained with him. Therefore, he's referred to as Vyasadeva. Only Vyasadeva could do something that extraordinary. So anyway, for the sake of Devaki, to help her understand, he begins to explain like this because she understands Vedic culture and life. So immediately he describes the mind, the senses as being like the demigods, because the center of Vedic civilization is you have to offer oblations to the demigods, right? Jagnatar, Kamano Natar, Lokayam Kamarbandhan. You have to, if you want to get freed from these things, you have to offer sacrifice. And the demigods, they in turn offer to the Supreme Personal Godhead. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna in the 14th chapter describes this a little better, not better, but in another way, how the senses, the gross elements which we see, they're the inferior. And then the senses are superior to that. And then above that is the mind. And here he doesn't go above the mind, but we know the intelligence is there. And then above the intelligence is ultimately the soul, who is covered by false ego. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, the senses of the living entities are always engaged in some occupation, either in activities prescribed in the injunctions of the Vedas or in material activities. So that's true. We understand that very clearly. The natural inclination of the senses is to work for something, and the mind is the center of these senses. So Kapila was saying, of course, in the text, that the mind, natural duty is to serve. So we can clarify. It's to serve what? What makes it inclined to serve one or the other? The senses, they are receiving information, right? Our tongue, ears, eyes, nose, gathering all this information. And the mind is feeling all these things, and it's accepting or rejecting, right? It's in that mood of, oh, this is nice, no, this is not nice, based on knowledge that our intelligence has. And then ultimately behind that, there is the soul. So therefore the example is given like a chariot. The horses are the five senses. The mind is the rein, and intelligence is the driver. So imagine riding a chariot and you don't have anything to control the horses. They just go. Not very nice, is it? So, and then the intelligence is the driver, but he doesn't know how to ride a horse. That's not very nice either. So then ultimately he says the soul, he's the passenger in this vehicle. He's just, oh my God, what's happening here? What do I do, you know? So those who are not situated in proper knowledge, life is not very nice, is it? But Krishna is very kind and merciful. Maya is there. No, don't worry. Everything is going fine. Just We make another turn here or there. It's going to be so nice. Don't you worry about it, right? Okay, okay. Whatever you say. We're hoping against hope. But you never feel comfortable because we're in ignorance. So Prabhupada goes, says, the mind is actually the leader of the senses, therefore it's called sattva. I thought that was an interesting twist there with the my papers. So sattva is, in a no way to look at it, it means clarity, illumination, balance or awareness. You see? So the mind, it can be either set in clarity or it can be in confusion. So, but it's what is aware of what's happening through our external body. And Prabhupada continues on with this about how the demigods are engaged in the activities of the material world, but yet ultimately they recognize the Supreme Lord. He's the one they have to satisfy. This is one of the advantages that being in the heavenly planets is that just like we are conscious of our body and as human beings, and we are aware of, like there's planets and so many other things. Lower than us are the animals and the other species of life. They're not even aware that there's planets, that there's all these things going on. They just have sense perception. Imagine that. Of course, you could say ignorance is bliss. You know, better not to know. As a human, that ignorance causes us suffering. What do you know? Why am I born like this? What's going on? Why is this? Why do I have to die? If we are civilized, we will think like that. The demigods, on the other hand, they know Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're conscious of it. But they're bewildered by the opulence of sense gratification in the material, in the higher planetary systems. So, very difficult to become a pure devotee if you go to the heavenly planets. The Earth planet, this is meant for achieving pure devotional service. So anyway, he goes on to describe about how this everything in this Sankhya way, because there's a class of people who are actually like that, you know. Especially if you go to remote areas where you have tribal people, you know, their lives are very simple. So they see the wonderments of the world as supreme. A volcanic eruption, oh my God, this must be, you know, all the phenomena of the world. So even Krishna in the Gita, he describes himself in that way. For these people, I'm the taste of water, I'm the light of the sun and the moon. You see. Of immovable objects, I am the Himalayas. Now people at least can have a sense of that there's something superior to me. So what to do? In the end, it probably goes on to describe how we want to bring perfection to this arrangement. What is that perfection? It begins with understanding what is our position. Everything is eternal, sanatan. Even the atheists recognize that. They say we all come from chemicals and we go back to chemicals. So there's some eternality, right? So yeah, that's sanatan we perceive with our eyes, but there's another sanatan, the jiva that's inside the body. There's the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. is Sanatan. So everything is Sanatan, but because we're down in this environment, which is asanat, everything is changing. Therefore, we are bewildered. Because naturally we want to be in that position. So, the whole point of the human life is to return to our Sanatan position perfectly in relation to everything. So what is our position? What is our Sanat position? We are the servants. And Krishna's Sanatan position, he's the master. And all these things belong to him, and we should naturally use them in his service. Now is perfect. But when we are in this, we have the ability to not want to be the servant. Because we are part and parcel of Krishna. So we have that tendency to want to be the Lord. And when that happens, then the bewilderment comes and all these problems exist. So, how is it that Krishna is the Supreme Person of Godhead and we can understand that? That is Krishna's arrangement for us so that we can try to live independent of him. Therefore, his external energy is here to bewilder us. Which is, amazing. If you just sit back and think, you can clearly see what is your position. But when you're driven by desire, by that false ego to be the enjoyer, and the information is coming from our senses, that's all we can see. Therefore it says a sober person, he can see these things. One who's dira, he can see, the body's changing, but I'm not changing. A little more sober, he can see, actually, I'm doing nothing but service. Right? Most people think I am the master of my family. But in reality, you're just a servant of the family. You have to provide everything. There's nothing but service. I am the master of my body. Really? Okay, when his body is telling you go to the bathroom, no, you wait 1 hour. I'm busy right now. I don't go now. No. You have no choice. You have to follow it. So we're nothing but servants. So the jiva, he has to come to the platform where he gives up this propensity to try to be the Lord. Then you become happy. How can you be happy when you accumulate all the things you want? Even if you get everything you want, still death comes. The fears are, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to become old. So the real benefit for the divinity is to return back to the Sanatan nature of being servants of Krishna. So how does that happen? That only happens by the mercy of the Supreme Person of Godhead and his representatives, that they come and they engage us in this service. So it says, Evam param prapaptam eman rajasayo vidu. That through this chain of devotees or disciplic succession, service to the Supreme Person of Godhead is there. Beginning from Brahma, first created being in this planet, right? Teni Brahma Hridaya, Krishna, in his heart, he imparted to him the realization of his position and gave him service. What was his service? He had to create the universe and all these things. And then he imparted knowledge to Narada, Narada to Vyas, and so on and so on. And we see here Kapila is giving the knowledge. And we are here now also engaged in service by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Of course, not that we are exclusive devotional service of Krishna. There's many branches of this devotional service. There's even 4 sampradayas, not just Brahma Sampradaya. Then within the Brahma Sampradaya, so many branches. They're all engaged in service. So when the divinity, by some, it says some unknown reason, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that in his Jaiva Dharma. How is it someone who's engaged in this material activities comes in contact with pure devotional service? It's causeless. You can't determine the cause. How? But when he comes in contact with it, immediately the jiva becomes attracted. That attraction maybe doesn't manifest immediately. In some cases, we see devotees. We hear especially about Prabhupada disciples. Many of them, they got a book. Next week, they moved into the temple, shaved their head. Others, well, you know, it took a while, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You know. Many join, maybe don't surrender so fully in a sense, you know. But once you contact devotional service, Bhakti Lata Bij has been planted in the heart. It doesn't matter. Even, you know, I'm still thinking back to the 70s. We were selling books. So many antagonistic people screaming at us. They're all getting the Bhakti Lata Bij planted in them because they heard the Harinam from the lips of a devotee in Parampara. You know, you have potency. That's what you have to remember. You may think, well, who am I? I'm not Prabhupada. I'm not pure devotee. No, you have fire. You have the devotion because you come in contact with it. Even a little match like this can burn down this whole Mayapur. It doesn't take a giant flame, right? So any contact people have with you, that Bhakti Lata Bij is being planted in them. By performing devotional service, the result is you get more devotional service. That's what happens. Especially people who have like a long history of selling books. You probably encounter that. You ever meet people you sold books to on the street before? Jamasi? Yeah, I remember once in New Orleans, we were doing Harinam. I think I told this story before. We're selling books. But mainly it's a Harinam. And there's one big guy, this is in New Orleans. They got some big, you think the Russians are big. They got some Cajuns, they call them, really. So normally I don't approach people like that because they're a little intimidating when you see them. You know? But Super Soul's like, give him a book, give him a book. And he's looking at the Harinam party. And I walk up to him, and I have a Beyond Birth and Death, try to hand it to him. He looks down at me in the corner of his eye. They're always trying to give me these books. And I said to him, oh yeah. I said, you know how many people never see these books? And yet you see them all the time? Maybe God's trying to tell you something. So he took $1 out of his pocket. But he'd been approached 4, 5, 6, 7 times. He had to get purified. Now he can render more service. So, you know, you shouldn't feel bad if somebody's like, you know, you crazy Krishnas. Eventually, they'll, you know, Hare Krishna. One day you'll see them in Mayapur, you know, shaped up or something. Or maybe next life, who knows. But the path has begun. You see, it'll never go away. That's the rarity, to get that opportunity. So for us, you know, how to serve, how to be a devotee. You're going to hear here, of course, Kapila instructing his mother in this way. As I mentioned earlier, to me it seems a little, you know, this Sankhya philosophy is kind of, well, you know, because in Kali Yuga it's stated most of us are Sudra. Therefore, Vyasadeva, he compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata stories for us to hear about Krishna. He didn't give us hardcore Vedic philosophy. Who's going to read that? You can barely get people to read these books, isn't it? I'm shocked how when you show people the book, it's so beautiful, especially back in the 70s. There's such a Prabhupada made them so beautiful. There's no book so beautiful done. He could have done them very, low cost. He wanted paintings in the book, pictures too. Because, you have to attract the people. They have to look at them and go, oh, wow, I remember we were distributing the 7th canto when it came out. I think I mentioned before to someone anyway. Highly anticipated book. You couldn't wait to get that book. They would come maybe once a month, a big truck full of books. And, there's the picture on the front. I'm like, who is not going to want to buy this book? You want to buy it just to, what the heck is this? Nah, demons. No, I don't get it away from me. So fallen, huh? Well, this is the age, actually. Even though we're the most fallen, we get the most mercy. Isn't that ironic? You think in the other ages, they should get Lord Chaitanya's mercy, like in Satya Yuga. Why do the most people who don't want it get this? Because he's in the mood of Radharani. That's when you have devotion, you have compassion. Usually the father, mother, they have compassion on the child, which is having the most difficulty, right? Not really the one that's going on nice. So they made it very easy. You just chant Hare Krishna. Even probably just say, it's only chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds, follow forward to the principles. What's the difficulty? And even that we complain, Such small tapasya. It's not, you don't have to go into the forest over here and try to meditate. So, devotional service for us in the same way, just trying to lead into some tips, not just some philosophy here, is Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. This is the essence for us. Brahma was given, built the universe. And the Pandavas had, kill all these Kauravas and everyone else. Everybody has their mission. So our service is this Sankirtan. That's a big service. It doesn't mean everybody has to run out and do this. We all have different propensities and everything is necessary. So however Krishna is inspiring us, we feel this inspiration. Normally in your mind, that's where the feeling is coming from, right? I want to do this, I want to do that. In the beginning, we're conditioned by those of us who were born, without Krishna consciousness. I mean, now we have another generation of devotees coming up, born devotees. I was in a class in the Mayapur Institute. All devotees who were born, children who were born from devotees. I didn't know that at first. Because, they start asking examples. I start giving these examples because, we came out of conditioned life. Yeah, you have to surrender, you have to this and that. And I look at their faces, no reaction. I'm like, what's going on with this? Usually the devotees are kind of, yeah. And I asked them, I asked them, were your parent, mother, and father devotees? Go, yes. I don't know how to talk to them. They never really suffered like we suffered because they've always been devotees. So what's the motivation? For me, it's like, I don't want to suffer. I remember the suffering. I have to go back to Godhead. Got to get pure. They don't have that. I still don't know how to relate to them. And they're peaceful. They're just kind of, okay. I don't know what he's talking about, but but motivation. So we want to, Krishna's inspiring us to do so many things. So the problem is understanding, is it Krishna or is it Maya? Because in the end, we're the servant We want to make Krishna happy. Right? That's what we're desiring. Maybe we're not purely motivated as mixed. Like myself, I don't want to take birth again, therefore I do this. I sold books on the street. Why? I wanted to see Prabhupada. I didn't care about those karmis. You know, when Prabhupada would visit America, he couldn't visit all the temples. So generally, where would he go? Whoever sold the most books, right? So that was my motivation all year. You have to take a book so that Prabhupada comes to our temple. So it was good motivation, you see? Because we're engaged in service. You're enthused with enthusiasm. Utsaha Nishramda. You need some enthusiasm. Can't just be, dry philosophy, not the Bhagavatam Krishna, Hare Krishna, and, right? It's difficult. We're not Bhajananandis, really. We're merely Ghostananandis. Prabhupada was very expert in engaging us in this way. Creating so many activities, so many varieties of activities, like here, Mayapur. What is this? This is the Temple of Festivals. Shruti Kirtan and I were talking to the Pujari this morning. He goes, 365 days a week, we have a festival. I was asking about the festival they've created for the deities downstairs, and I said, can you explain this? He just kind of went, every day is a festival. Something Janani Boss came up with, so we just, why not? So we bring people here to get enlivened, they can go back. So we have to find what is our service, something that we're going to do, and we're going to accomplish it, and then we can feel good about it because we did something. And we do that by under the guidance of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. So it's different for everyone. It doesn't mean you have to be, big sannyasi preacher or whatever, a pot washer, so many things. Whatever I can do. And it's all necessary. We need it all. But you want to do it with enthusiasm. Now devotional service becomes easy. And it becomes more enjoyable too. So not that we're chasing enjoyment, because sometimes you have to do the necessary. In the 70s, everybody went on book distribution. I didn't like it. I went, but I didn't like it at all. My nature was very shy. I'm still a bit like that. I'm trying to get better. And now I got to go approach people. Excuse me, sir, excuse me. It was, and they don't like you too. Oh, it was so. But we had to do it. In retrospect, I can understand why now. Why did we so aggressively sell those books in that way? We didn't realize Krishna's about to take Prabhupada. We always thought he's going to be here forever, at least till he finished the Bhagavatam. I thought like that. No way Krishna can take him. Who's going to finish the Bhagavatam? Us? In the end, that's what Krishna wanted. And they did a good job, didn't they? If they didn't tell you that's not Prabhupada's purports, you think, yeah, it's Prabhupada's purports. Empowered, that's how it comes. Prabhupada had faith like that. And I talked to Brahmananda Swami once about when Prabhupada left New York to go to San Francisco. He'd been there almost a year. And now he says, I'm going to San Francisco because they're having a program. They were like, how are you going to leave? Who's going to give class? Nobody ever gave class before. He said, one day you give, one day you give, one day you give. They were like, so I said, who gave the first class? He said, Sasarup, I think gave. I said, how was it? He said, it felt like Prabhupada was there. You see? That's devotional service. They didn't even have Bhagavad Gita, anything. This is the power to. We all have that power. You don't think you don't have any. You just take it for granted because, we're conditioned souls. So whatever we feel, it just feels natural. But actually you do. So we do what we have to at the time for the satisfaction of Guru and Gauranga. That's how we serve Krishna. And ultimately, is Prabhupada happy? Is Guru happy? Are devotees happy? Sometimes maybe you can't make Guru and you can't make devotees happy. You get more advanced, you can serve like that. Like Bali Maharaj, right? Guru says, no, don't give it to him. He had to decide, right? What am I going to do? It's Vishnu, but it's Guru. Who do I offend? An intelligent devotee. Fine, I'll take Guru Aparad. I'll do what he says. That was service. But Krishna will never give you more than you can handle. But he's going to give you to push you, because that's where your love is shown. When you will sacrifice your own comfort for Krishna's satisfaction. Not as a misogynist, in the sense that I want misery. No, but sometimes like mother is a good example. A mother and a child. That's probably the closest thing to pure love of Godhead in the material world. Like 2 o'clock in the morning, baby's crying. Does the mother get upset? No, it's, baby. You run right away. Only the father gets upset. I got to go to work, make him stop. So we want to come to that platform. It takes time. We chant our 16 rounds, regular principles, morning program. Gradually the heart softens. You see, adoshvada, tata sadhu, sangata, bhajana kriya. We're in bhajana kriya now. Atato nata niriti shat. Getting rid of the nartas which are covering this. Then ruchi, you see, the spontaneity begins to come. You can do anything. And so many examples of that, you see in the early days. Brahmananda, my favorite example. He's in Florida. Prabhupada's in Mumbai at a Pandil program. Someone is challenging Prabhupada. Imagine that. They used to really get in Prabhupada's face sometimes. And one person said to Prabhupada, why are you telling us all these things? Like, why are you just preaching to people? He said, why don't you go to Pakistan and tell them? I said, you challenging me? I accept your challenge. He sent telegram to Brahmananda. Go to Pakistan immediately. You see, even me, I go, why? Where's the money? Where am I going to stay? All these things. Brahmananda, he understood it. He got to London. That's all the money he had. And pretty much he walked to Pakistan. In his sannyas dress, no money, what do you eat? You know what I mean? And he goes into Karachi. There's a civil war going on. And he sits down. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I said, why did you do that? I said, I would have. I want my round trip ticket. I want an apartment. And then I go. And he looked at me and said, Prabhupada said to do it. And still I wasn't understanding. He said, we saw Prabhupada doing that. That was the advantage they saw because they saw Prabhupada come in the beginning. We saw the sacrifice he made. So they had faith. And people were putting knives to him. They would spit on his face, wipe the tilak off. Finally, Prabhupada sent a telegram, leave Pakistan immediately, because this is a civil war. He said, that was the best instruction I ever received from Prabhupada. That's the nature. That's the mood we want to come to. Have that faith. Then you experience the spiritual world when you're in that mood. It doesn't mean you do reckless things, but you're willing to do anything for Krishna. I mean, everything is Krishna, right? Everything's Sanatan, like I said. Everything belongs to Krishna. Your body belongs to Krishna. So why are you resisting? I, me, mine, I got to have, now I'll serve. Okay, then you get that much. You see? As they surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. You surrender that much, you get that much. You surrender this much, you get that much. See? Of course, Krishna's so kind, he doesn't let you stay like that. He's going to keep something to make you go on. So, to the point maybe you may break even. But he's going to keep pushing. So, anyways, we'll stop here. And Jamastri Babu, please. I didn't do any of this. It was
Hare Krishna. Thank you for enlivening all of us. Yeah, I've been reading in Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita about Juhu, Vrindavan, you know, all the challenges the devotees went through. It's like practically a torture chamber that they were undergoing. And then the most recent pastime I was reading was in Vrindavan, and Guru Das, who wasn't so much of a manager, and the construction was going very slowly, and Prabhupada was pushing, and Jamuna, she wasn't coming to the temple. She was cooking. That was his wife, Guru Das's wife, and Prabhupada sent a message. You know, you come. I haven't seen you in a long time, and the reason behind it. And she said, "Well, Prabhupada, you're chastising everybody, you know, and I'm afraid to come." And then Prabhupada responded and said, "Well, if someone has to push this. If I don't push it, it's not going to happen."
Yeah.
So, you know, that was very much the mood in the days when Prabhupada was present. You know, a real heavy push, you know, to get the books out and everything. You know, and it was very dynamic. I just, the level of bliss that was available was just amazing. You remember Pragosh, the book distributor. I always used to walk around in the 55th Street Temple. There's beautiful paintings, you know, of all these Krishna Leelas on the wall, so well done. And just being in complete bliss, you know, and just going out and distributing as many books as possible with so many challenges. Incredible.
Yeah.
But it was ecstatic. So when will those days again be ours?
Yeah.
When we get that kind of mercy, you know,
Yeah.
really, it's powerful. So really excellent point, you know. And there was also one other point, you know, the Radhesham from Pune.
Yes.
They've been teaching this Discover Yourself seminar for many, many years. I remember I broke my hip and I went there for trying to recover with BKS, younger therapy, and I spent time there. And they actually did statistics on who joined, because they had a high percentage of devotees that took the course. These were IIT students in their first year, and they tried to get the course out within the first 3 weeks before they got contaminated too much, you know, by the slaughterhouse. And so those that actually joined, like, I think it was something like 87% came because of distress.
Distress.
Yeah, distress. And, you know, that's kind of the low level of qualification, but it's what, as you pointed out, it's what happens in Kali Yuga. And then we get amazing mercy. I certainly was in that category. It was like incredible what I went through. So the first day I visited a temple, bam, joined. And I got so much relief, you know, so much bliss.
Yeah, that was a very good points you made there. Ultimately, too, Prabhupada knew who to push and when to push. He was very expert. And he wasn't just pushing for the sake of, you know, because I'm the spiritual master, you have to do it. In retrospect, it was practical. He knew he was on borrowed time. He could leave. If we didn't have these temples, Mayapur, Vrindavan, all these established, if these books were not completed to that level, imagine what would have happened to the movement when Prabhupada was gone. Because, you know, there's a period where we have to transition to serving without Prabhupada, which was difficult. So many devotees like, the heck with this. All the book distributors left. Where's the money coming for the temple? But they came from India by mercy of Krishna, H-1 visa, and there's no temples in America. So they had to come to our temple. Now we got money again. It was perfect. And then to make these better, the Westerners come, the Indians, oh wow, so many Western people. You see, they fed off each other. It was perfect. So we may not didn't realize, he wasn't just beating on us just to beat on us. I mean, now we don't have to push so hard, you know, it's in motion, right? It's going. Even like those 17 volumes in 2 months. You could think that's abuse. No, but he had to do it. Those books would not have been finished if they were doing one every 2 months. They wouldn't have been finished. Who knows what would have happened after Prabhupada left his body? So it was practical. We wanted them now, and he knew they could do it. He knew Rameshwar was surrendered enough. If that was me, I would have blew. I'm like, that's it. I can't do this anymore. I'm out of here. So he had those devotees in particular positions to do the necessary things. I was talking, even like with Shruta Kirti we were talking. That service he rendered wasn't massage, wasn't just for Prabhupada's pleasure. It gave him life. It extended his life. To take those services, like imagine Prabhupada had no servant. He's got to cook, he's got to clean. Where does he have time to do the books and other things? So Shruta Kirti is expertly doing those things so Prabhupada doesn't waste a second. And his temperament is such that he's not disturbing Prabhupada, If I'm there, I'm like, hi Prabhupada, how are you today? Is everything okay? No, don't talk. You just sit there. And don't feel bad because he's not talking to you. He's on his mission. He didn't waste a second. So everybody was put in particular places to do what was necessary so that we have what we have now. This proof was one of the...
Thank you for the class. This point about pushing, you elaborated a little bit, but that was exactly what I wanted to ask, because it was different times, the movement was in a different phase,
yes,
and now young generation is completely different.
Yeah, different.
And how do we apply this idea of pushing? How do we also avoid the risk of maybe certain seniors also trying to push even though maybe they are not in a position to push? And discouraging others, or actually trying to stay in a mood that is no longer up to date.
Trinadapi, Sunichena, Tarodapi. It's for both sides. We're not perfect. They're going to make mistakes. We're not Prabhupada. Prabhupada was perfect. He knew how to... I put my head on Prabhupada's feet. He should have chastised me. But he didn't. He knew. I probably quit. Other devotees he chastised. So, we're like children and the fathers passed away. So naturally there's going to be so many things going wrong, but the movement you see is still growing. So we have to tolerate others just like they have to tolerate us. So, if the leader's, pushing us, you don't have to take offense. Just kind of, okay, let me work around it. And the leaders, eventually, they have to learn not to do that. Otherwise, Krishna usually pushes them aside, Like most people don't realize in early days of the movement, if you wanted to get married, temple president would pick your wife. Imagine that. We're from the West. We didn't grow up with arranged marriages. Anyway, you marry this one. Well, who is she? I don't know, but you're going to marry. And you couldn't say no, or you're in Maya. That's what we thought. You are not Krishna conscious. Later on, I realized you could say no. I said, what? There's a nice story about that. There's one devotee from South America with Prabhupada, and he told Prabhupada, I want to get married. Prabhupada said, I know the perfect woman, devotee, very beautiful Vaishnavi. I guess everybody wanted to marry her. And he goes, oh, wow, okay, Prabhupada's going to tell her to marry me. He's too anxious. He runs to her directly. Prabhupada said, you have to marry me. She goes, oh, nope, not going to happen. And he goes back to Prabhupada. She said she didn't want to marry me. He goes, okay, we find somebody else. You see, it's voluntary. It's not by... So he knows those who can or want to, then you push. So that's the art. But nowadays, we're not so extreme anymore. We don't have to be. Even Prabhupada told Jai Pataka, he said in the future, most of the devotees will live outside, which is shocking. We thought, how can you be a devotee and live outside? Nobody lived outside. You see? Now we see it's Krishna conscious. It's still Krishna conscious. So anyways, there's always going to be this. It was there during Prabhupada's time too. Someone asked Prabhupada, how do we know what the temple president tells me to do is Krishna's desire? He said, we don't know. You have to judge it by the result. And then you learn from it and go on. So that's how we do everything. One more thing. Anybody has to leave, I don't want to hold you up. Don't feel offended if you have to go.
The one thing that, kind of is deep in my heart, is that the senior gurus, probably within the next 5 years, won't be with us anymore. And this is something that, what can happen to our movement if devotees don't develop a deep relationship with Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
Like Jayapataka Swami, you know, I brought this point up with him because it was incredible, the mess after Prabhupada left. And you know, I said to Jayapataka Swami, well, you know, we all remember what it was like, but what will happen to our movement if devotees don't have a deep relationship with Srila Prabhupada, understanding his role in our lives and in the movement? And your senior gurus all leave, it may be much worse. So he completely agreed. It was so intense. And he said, if we don't do something now, it'll be very difficult to do after we leave. So yeah, I have a tendency to be pushy, but geez, so how do we accomplish it? You know, that's the issue, because many devotees don't realize its significance. But practically every senior devotee that I've spoken to, like Anuttama said, it will be 100 times worse than it was after Prabhupada's left. And others, same thing. So it's difficult to know exactly how to handle the whole thing.
I think in the end it's going to just get better, because even now people realize, you know, so many gurus fall down, so many things. You realize that ultimately this advancement is coming from serving Prabhupada. So the Diksha, the power of the Diksha is definitely going down. You know, it's really a Shiksha movement. We're not a Diksha movement. That's who we are, you know.
Well, even in the Parampara, at the end of the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, you know, it's all Shiksha Parampara.
There's people should read in the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj going back to Godhead. Nice purport in there where Dhruva Maharaj is getting on the airplane to go, and he's like, where's my mother? How can I go back to Godhead without her? By her, I'm doing this. And in that purport, Prabhupada says, and then they show that her mother's on an airplane. In that purport, Prabhupada says that this shows that I have to paraphrase. More or less he was saying that the disciple can be more advanced than the guru and take the guru back to Godhead. It's a relationship. That's what it is. They want the disciple to be more advanced. So ultimately, therefore, this advancement is coming, it's not by touching of the head. It's many things. Ultimately, it's Krishna. When he's pleased, you come closer to him. You see, by working together in this way and to fulfill the mission, and then these things come. But you should find that very nice. And Prabhupada in the end says, therefore I'm praying that one of my disciples become as strong as Dhruva Maharaj and carries me back home, back to Godhead.
Wow.
He says that in that purport. It's a relationship. It's not all down. Actually, the onus is on the disciple. They have to do the work. It's not the guru. It's like if you're in a university. Is it the teacher's fault if you don't understand, learn? No, you have to do it. So in this way, we serve that way. It's not all black and white. It would be nice if it's black and white, but it's not. That makes it more Krishna conscious and fun. It's all gray. So you have to learn to navigate in that gray. Anything else, Prabhu? Or?
Thank you for putting us in bliss.
Chuta Kirti, anything? He's always humble and quiet. You need to take advantage of him while he's here, because he's practically the last servant of Prabhupada with so much insight, and seeing Prabhupada every day, seeing him interacting with the devotees every day. Like some of these questions, he's seen it all. Big leaders, small leaders, this one getting that and that. How did Prabhupada deal with it? Sometimes he would protect the leader, and sometimes he let them get run off, right? Hard to understand all that stuff.
No, I just learned the most important thing is take your spiritual master's instructions as your life and soul. And if you do that, you can do anything.
Yeah.
They say, you know, Prabhupada told me the story about when his father bought him the gun. But he wanted one more gun, he said, for both hands. So I say, when he came to America, he also had two guns. And one was the holy name, and the other was his guru's instructions, those two things. So if you keep those two things always understanding, whatever you do, it's because of the mercy of the guru and the power of the holy name. You know, he sent 3 Grihastha families to London. They didn't have anywhere to stay.
Yeah.
They all went there very happily. And you know, Prabhupada mentioned, my Guru Maharaj sent the sannyasis. They couldn't do anything. He said 3 Grihastha, he said there were more than sannyasis, he said. Malati tells they were literally living on the street until finally they got something. But if Prabhupada said do it, like you say, no one asked why. You just did it. You know, Brahmananda tells when he went to Africa, he was scared to death. Went there with nothing, no money, nothing. He said he sat down, chanted Hare Krishna, closed his eyes. He opened his eyes and there were people there,
Sitting in front of him.
ready to help. He said, but he was so scared, he said he just closed his eyes and just started chanting Hare Krishna. But this was the faith that Prabhupada's disciples had in him, that he made us feel we could do anything. And he said, one person, he said, requires to open up a temple. And they would say, can you send some people? He said, one person. He said, that's all you need. One person to go open up a temple. Because he knew Krishna was doing everything, and Krishna wanted to see his name spread all over the world. It was just a question of doing what you're told and having that faith.
Yeah. Just to add to that story, I asked Malati about that too, because I went to Africa and we had nothing in the beginning. I said, she had a baby. Just imagine she had the first child in ISKCON. And they go to Prabhupada and say, we think if we meet the Beatles, they can help us, so we're going to go to London. Prabhupada didn't say, chant Hare Krishna, stay home and take care of your child. He said, you have my blessings. I said, where did you stay? She said she would get a cardboard box and go into the train station and sleep in that box with her baby. And they get up in the morning, you know Krishna's got, don't you know Krishna's got? That's what she did.
In the early days, even the Grihasthas would tell the stories, just like you see that curtain there, there would be a room, and there would be one Grihastha family on that side of the curtain, another Grihastha family on the other side of the curtain. This is how we were able to live, you know, just trying to do something for Srila Prabhupada. There was it was very austere.
Yeah,
very
now we don't have to be like that, but that was the beginning, so we're not saying if you don't do that, you're not Krishna conscious.
Yeah.
But, you know, what's in your heart, you know, that's the point.
Yeah.
The desire that I'm ready to. I can do anything. I can take birth again, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I can be a worm in stool if that serves for you.
They were the pioneers in those days, in the 60s, early 70s. And no matter what happened afterward, those people, Prabhupada takes care of them eternally. You know, they were very special. His soldiers were very, very special in what they've given to all of us.
Including yourself. I mean, I don't know how you did that service to Prabhupada. I used to think like that. I really wanted to be Prabhupada's servant. That was my motive. I think he told me, I talked to him, he said many people felt like that. I thought, I'm going to do something in such a way, Prabhupada's going to call me, and I'm going to bump him out of that service, and I'm going to be in the service. Then after I read his book, I went in the last 5 minutes. No way I could do that. There's no way. He told me he met some devotees, right? They're trying to massage Prabhupada. I go, I can't do it anymore. Somebody come take my place. So, anyways. So we'll stop here. All glory Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Hari Hari Bol.